the Hard Times article, one of my favourite comedy articles of all time, is Matthew McConaughey smoked 9 blunts and told us stories the Hard Times office, and we're starting to think actually that wasn't him.
As much as I'd like to read parody satire articles with you guys, I think we need to talk about this movie. First time guest, Ferris.
Yeah, here I am.
And returning guest, Martin Dunlop.
Hello.
Welcome to Reanimates.
Glad to be here. Glad to be... well, I mean, I'm not glad to keep covering these movies because this one, like, caused me some kind of psychic pain.
No, okay, I asked you to be on Frightmare, but you chose Necronomicon. That was like the first one you chose.
Yeah,
but
Necronomicon's great.
Pretty cool.
There is no argument. Necronomicon rocks. Anyone listening to this should watch it because it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So the movie that we're covering, if that isn't immediately obvious, is Frightmare from 1983, otherwise known as The Horror Star.
Yeah, the version I watched had that title.
Which is more
me too.
accurate. Like, it shouldn't be called Frightmare.
I mean, Frightmare's a great name for a horror movie, but it could kind of be a great name for literally any horror movie.
It doesn't have anything to do with this movie. The Horror Star actually makes sense. Also, the reason that this looks so 70s, I realised, is because it was released in 83 but shot in 81.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, they weren't even sure. Even in the glut of horror films that came out in the early 80s, they still weren't sure if this one had baked long enough. Like, it's a real dog, like, right out the gate. And it's funny, when I heard that this film was called The Horror Star, I was sort of a bit excited because I thought, was this like some sort of 80s sci-fi thing about an evil star in the sky that's bad or something?
A literal star,
I thought it was like some vague kind of
like it was going to be like
thing,
Life Force or something.
which is not helped by the fact that when you go into the film, when the title The Horror Star appears, there's laser sound effects.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird sci-fi stuff just kind of sprinkled on top of this movie for no reason.
It was written and directed by Norman Thaddeus Vane, which is a great name, but you're right not to know that name because he has not done much other...
What else has he done? Is this his best work?
I mean...
Norman Thaddeus? It's a great name.
That's the thing, you know...
Sounds like the name of an oil baron's nemesis.
When you look on IMDb at someone's references, you know, normally the known for part is like, usually there's a film in there that you might have even heard of, but even those... Frightmare isn't even in those.
Oh, so he does have more well-known work, theoretically.
Theoretically, yeah. If you happen to have heard of the films Taxi Dancers, Club Life, or Midnight from 1989...
Midnight?
He wrote a film directed by Michael Winner, I think, from the 60s called Lola.
Ah.
It's a romantic comedy. It's a mismatched couple, everybody.
Yeah, if they're from different sides of the track. They're different walks of life, these two. What is it? One of them's an uptight business lady. The other one's a free-living slacker.
Look, he's nearly 40.
Oh, boy.
She's almost 16.
Almost 16.
Almost 16. That's practically 18.
Those two words are only ever used by pederasts.
It is... I saw like 10 minutes of this once on TV, Lola, which I think was a flop when it came
Now
out.
there's a strange clicking noise whenever you pick up the phone.
Yeah, but I remember watching 10 minutes and there was a lot of jokes in there that were quite funny. But with that premise, it wouldn't matter how good that film
Yeah, you
was.
could have the best jokes in the world. Your premise is inherently unfunny.
Yeah, it's a romantic comedy about the difficulty of keeping up with age of consent laws. Like,
Well, surprisingly, Frightmare / The Horror Star, I'm going to call it Frightmare for this episode, does not have a lot of pederasty stuff, thankfully.
Well, they're all college students.
Yep, they're all legal.
and at the start, they all show their birth certificates to the camera.
This is actually a pretty special part of the Jeffrey Combs oeuvre.
Why is that?
Because this is his first named screen credit.
Huh.
Yep. So his first two films were Honky Tonk Freeway and Whose Life Is It Anyway? Mm-hmm. But in both of those, they were... I mean, in Honky Tonk Freeway, he's not even on screen.
Yeah.
But in both of those, he is respectively drive-in teller and first-year intern. So it was only 2 years later, or I guess the same year, if you're looking at filming dates, where he would have his first named role, and then, a few years later comes Reanimator. So you could argue Frightmare is responsible for the whole thing.
Except not, because I'd like to think that he got connected with Stuart Gordon and those guys through other channels. Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think this was the beginning, and it upset me like how truly terrible this film is, because it was made. Think about it. It was made contemporaneously. Is that how you pronounce that?
Let's say it is.
Contemporaneous.
That's how you pronounce it.
Pronounced at the same time as Evil Dead. Which is a film made probably for a lower budget by people who loved movies and who loved, not necessarily horror movies, because Sam Raimi's actually come out and said he doesn't really like them.
Yeah.
But
Which
someone
is so weird.
because he's made such good ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that someone who like put so much effort, and him and Bruce Campbell and his brother and the Coens, like they worked so hard on that film. And at the same time, like, Norman Thaddeus Vane, is that the full name? Just shout this out. At the start of the film, you get that Troma intro pop up, and my heart sank.
I thought, well, I'm in for something. Like that Troma logo immediately tells me, and I've got to say, there was a lot less blood, vomit, and boobs in this than I would expect from a Troma film.
Hardly any boobs, really.
But I don't think this was a Troma film. I think this is one
an
of those
acquisition,
ones
yeah.
Yeah, because...
So for people who, because you guys are obviously horror buffs, for people who don't know, what is Troma and how would people know it?
Troma was run by Lloyd Kaufman, who was somehow like a sleazier Roger Corman.
Ooh. Yep.
Their point of pride is that they've existed, they still exist, and they've existed for, like, at this point, nearly half a century without ever making a hit. Even, I think, Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger probably
like,
being the most well-known property. What else did they gave Trey Parker and Matt Stone their launch with Cannibal the Musical, although I think that might have been an acquisition as well.
But even being an acquisition, I guess that's
a big deal. Class of Nukem High is them.
Sergeant Kabuki-man in YPD.
Yeah.
Is that a big deal?
Lots of classic 80s exploitation out of New York.
Surf Nazis Must Die. And
that's true.
I think their biggest claim is that, like, some people came through Troma. James Gunn, who's big in the Marvel universe, started out in Troma. Kevin Costner was in Troma movies.
Really?
And to begin with, that was his first roles. But
So how would you describe the average Troma movie to someone who doesn't?
Very splattery exploitation films with ridiculous concepts, lots of gore, lots of nudity, all of them comedies, essentially, despite being masked as superhero movies or horror movies or whatever. They're all essentially comedies if it's a Troma movie. I feel like we're forgetting something.
Audio design is something I always ascribe to it. Like, if you can't hear what anyone's saying because it's so muddy and crunchy, that's a Troma film.
Yeah. So cheap and nasty, but a good bit of fun.
And frequently...
Usually a good bit of fun, yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you the plot so quickly. There is an old horror movie star. He dies. His body is stolen by film students. He comes back to life and kills the film students. You on board?
Yep.
Great idea? Good idea, right. That story, they fuck up.
Yeah.
They somehow fuck that up.
Well, it's 45 minutes into the movie before he comes back from the dead.
At the start, we meet our horror legend who's on the set. This is Conrad Radzoff, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
He's filming a movie, and he's
filming a commercial.
Yeah.
Oh,
for dentures, apparently.
Something like he's filming
So right off the bat, immediately you see him, you're like, that's meant to be Christopher Lee.
100% they wanted Christopher. They even wrote it for Christopher Lee because he's barely in scenes with anyone else. Like, it's written to be a walk-on, do like 4 days filming, and then we film the rest of the movie around you, like they did with Christopher Lee and a lot of the later Dracula movies.
There's even there's a shot where you look at an old photo of Conrad, and it looks exactly like a very famous old photo of Christopher Lee, which I'll post on the socials. It's far and away meant to be Christopher Lee.
Well, I got really confused. There's a scene at the start where the kids are all sitting around talking about how much they love Conrad as like this old horror legend actor, but they're watching a Christopher Lee movie.
Yes, they are. So they're watching Tempri Duri per I Vampiri, which I think is My Uncle is a Vampire or something. And that is just Christopher Lee, because I remember looking at that footage and I'm like, how did they make that actor look so young? And I'm like, oh no, that's just Christopher Lee with like a unibrow.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking because the villain in this, the character we've just been introduced to right at the start of the movie, is played by an actor called Ferdy Mayne.
Yes.
I think his name is, who is a German actor who fled the Nazis and spent most of his life making films in England. And it's so sad because Ferdy made films.
He made so many.
Yeah.
Could have got so much footage.
Old footage of him from the 50s, no problem.
Of just like him in Spanish, but the one time they show a movie, and it isn't even obviously like a horror scene from a film. The guy's in a dark room, but you don't know. And they got Christopher Lee footage instead.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe that they were so set that they were going to get Christopher Lee that they just cut that footage before.
Or it was the only film they bought the rights to.
Yeah.
So his biggest role, he played a vampire in The Fearless Vampire Killers.
The poster of which is up on the wall in the student's house later, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so he played a famous vampire, but this film definitely couldn't have afforded that money because that'd be like an MGM production or something.
Yeah, no, they're not getting that footage.
Yeah,
Ferdy Mayne did a lot of films. He's been working since the early 40s. I went back through his IMDb, and he has. Do you want to hear some of his really fun 40s and 50s movie titles? Okay, he was in Warn That Man. He was in Old Mother Riley Overseas, and my personal favourite, and I would love to know what the hell this movie is about. You know what sailors are.
You don't often get movie titles that are declarative statements and assumptions.
Oh, Ferris, you know what sailors are, don't you?
I like Old Mother Riley Goes Overseas because that implies it's a spin-off of the very successful Old Mother Riley series.
Yes.
That everyone loves and is talking about.
Yeah, I like to think that Ferdy was playing Old Mother Riley.
Yeah, the MCU of its day.
Yeah.
The Old Mother Riley.
Old Mother Riley Goes Tropical. And Old Mother Riley Halloween.
Old Mother Riley Goes to Summer Camp. Old Mother Riley was the original Medea, I'm sure we're sure. So, Conrad has a little bit of a hissy fit on the set because he's being chewed out by the director.
I'd say he has a pretty big hissy fit.
He does.
To be fair.
This is a little bit of Conrad being very bold and dramatic on the set to this weenie director. But then he gets his own back, I guess.
Sort of, yeah, the director's like, take 5, everyone. This guy's being a prick. And then chooses quite wisely to go out and, I don't know, like have a cigarette or something to cool off on the balcony and just sits on the railing of the balcony.
Yep, asking for trouble.
There are seats right there. You can see them in frame. And he's like, I'm going to perch up here on the edge of this balcony.
Well, I guess he doesn't expect that esteemed horror icon Conrad will push him off with his cane to his untimely death because that's what he does.
He pushes him off the way a cat pushes a flower pot off a bench. Like, he just kind of wants to see what will happen.
It sucks so bad. It's the first kill of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's such a damp squib. Like, there's a crunch when the guy hits the ground and they show some blood. But if you are opening your 1981 horror, the peak of horror, everyone has to come down and see this. You have to see this scene. And the opening kill is this piss weak. It's you know, a real death for the film and is only equaled by the next death that happens.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
Well, the thing that I immediately found weird was that Conrad's fun little exit line, because the director has been chewing him out about the fact that he can't get the film right in 18 takes. And so after Conrad confirms that the director is dead after having fallen off the balcony, he says, take 19. Like, that's a funny exit line? Like,
yeah, and then he continues to keep count throughout the film.
No, he doesn't. He only does it in the next kill, and then he stops doing it.
Yeah, he abandons the bit, I guess, because once he's away from anyone involved in that on that set, he's like, well, they're not going to get it.
It also doesn't make sense at all.
Well,
but
I couldn't figure out, has he killed people before? He does it so haphazardly and casually that I'm like, has this man been murdering people his whole career?
And
or
why I was confused, because I thought that this would be better if you started off. We've already explained what the basic entire plot is. It would be better if you start off with he's a nice old horror man like Bela Lugosi, and everyone's horrible to him, and then he dies, and it's when he comes back from the grave that it's like, I'm the monster I always was on screen.
Yeah, but I think they want to make the teens sympathetic, the teens who will go on to steal his corpse just for a laugh. I think they want to make what they do less detestable, so they make him out to be a prick in real life. But it doesn't.
Kill him all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would argue that the horny teens in this horror movie are less outwardly detestable than the horny teens I've seen in other horror movies. They are not as annoying nor loathsome, I would say.
Look, they're not as annoying because they've got a reasonably likable cast. But think about what they do.
Yes.
They dig up a man's corpse. We'll get to it, but basically, they steal and desecrate a corpse.
Yeah.
That's fucking awful. Of someone they admire, no less.
So we cut to a film screening where the teens are part of a high school film society, a horror film society.
I think it's a college. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be. Well, it must be college because they live in a big house together.
Yeah.
So they're showing one of Conrad's old films, and they've invited Conrad to come and speak. And as we mentioned, the film footage is definitely not Ferdy Mays, definitely Christopher Lee. This is also where we meet my friend and yours, Jeffrey Combs. He's one of the...
Your mate.
How dare you? He's everyone's friend. He is one of the many teens as part of this horror film society. First thing you notice about Jeffrey Combs in this, very pretty.
First thing you know.
He plays Stu, and we'll meet the rest of our teens in a minute, even though some of them I definitely didn't catch their names.
In this scene, when Conrad comes out to give his speech, he's really lovely, and he is that, like, sad, put-upon, washed-up old star.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's so nice to discover I have this fan base and all you people love me. I thought my work had been forgotten. This is really touching. I'm almost certain the stuff at the start with him being, like, a monstrous murderous piece of shit was added in later.
They were like, we can't open it with just this beleaguered old man for a period. We need to open with a death.
And we need to make him less sympathetic from the start. So he just randomly he kills that director. I'm sorry to get hung up on this, but I'm not sorry at all because it's a stupid movie. He kills that director on set. Hundreds of people, or dozens at the very least, of like crew members and everyone around. Everyone saw him have a screaming match with this director minutes before his mysterious death. How does he get away with this?
The rich and powerful in LA.
Hollywood, baby.
Some parts of the film make him out to be kind of washed up and forgotten, and then other parts make him out to be like he was this massive A-list star. It's really inconsistent.
That's definitely not clear.
Imagine this film made in like 3 more years, but it's about Katherine Heigl. I used to be somebody.
I'll show you all. Conrad has a heart attack on stage. He's saved by Meg, played by Jennifer Starrett. This was her last film.
Yeah, I think it's my last film.
She did a handful of films. This was the last one, and I couldn't find any other information. I mean, I didn't look that hard.
I mean, she doesn't exactly leap off the screen in this.
No,
I mean, she's fine, but...
Unfortunately, she's definitely one of the weaker parts of it, but she knows CPR in this movie, and she saves Conrad, but he does die pretty soon.
This, again, makes me think that things were shot out of order and added in later, because he falls down here... And you're like, oh, okay, so he's dead now, as the very, like, most basic synopsis of the plot would lead you to believe. Conrad's going to die at the start. And then he's alive again, and then he has another death scene, and then, no, that's not it, he's still alive, and then he has another third death scene.
Yeah.
And this is before there's any, like, supernatural coming back from the dead shit. He just keeps dying, and it's like they shot the scene 3 different times and went, I like them all.
Well, in fairness, the next time he dies is... In the next scene, Conrad is chatting to his wife, Etta, and he says, I've never died before. I want to do it right. And he's chatting with a film director that he's worked with who, like, discovered him, and he pretends to die.
Importantly, is this the scene that opens with him sitting upright in bed in full fucking Dracula?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's wearing his cape because he thinks he's about to die.
Yeah, he wants to
cape.
die in costume.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
It's
a bad Dracula costume, and immediately the director has no idea how to shoot it. It's something that annoyed me. I really like Ferdy Mayne in this movie, this old, skinny little British actor.
He looks like a cross between Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, so in a way he's perfect for this role.
He is well cast, but then to shoot him, like, you need to shoot him like Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
You need to give him that power, that
They
angle.
give him none of that. He just looks like an old man.
There's this skinny little, not very well it seems, little actor just in the middle of frame there. It looks so pathetic, and it's annoying because, like, he wasn't even that sick. He lived till 93. He was still starring in things.
Yeah, I think that the lighting had a lot to do with that. The lighting in this scene especially, I noticed, was bad, and then in other scenes it's way too dark. But yeah, the lighting was a bit rat shit in this movie, as were some other things, but not everything.
Well, I read somewhere that they fired the DOP like 2 days in because he was taking forever to light scenes.
Yeah, and
that's why there's a handful of scenes that are gorgeously shot, but the rest of it is just like rushed and shit and get on with it.
Yeah, I heard that they initially wanted to film this in black and white.
Yeah, I don't think that would have added anything.
No, I don't think it would have.
There's so many shadows, it would have just been
Yeah.
black.
Yeah.
Black and black.
Yeah, so when Conrad is chatting to this film director, he pretends to die, and then the director chews him out. Well, he chews out his corpse. Conrad comes back to life.
Haha, I'm not really dead. I
Yes.
just wanted to know what you thought of me all this. I thought when Conrad dies and the director's like, I've always wanted to tell you, I honestly thought he was going to say, I always loved you.
And this director...
But instead he's just like, I hated you, you prick, you.
He's like his man Friday. He hands him the cane on the set.
Yeah.
I don't understand their relationship.
No.
I don't know why he's there, but the important thing is it's another figure for Conrad to then reveal, haha, I'm not actually dead. I've heard everything you've said about me. And to smother him with a pillow.
Yep.
There are not a lot of pillow smotherings in 80s horror films.
For a good reason. It's
Yeah.
not a visually spectacular death.
I mean, it possibly could be if you shot it right, if you get the real...
Yeah.
When you become aware, like, how much force you need to
It's
crush
never
a
going to have the same simple impact as like a decapitation. Though.
Yeah, you
It's
need a
just,
spear gun through the eye.
yeah, something cool like that. And it just, again, I think this scene definitely an add-on later because you could easily cut from him falling down during the speech, having the heart attack, to the funeral. There's no need for him to do this. I'm dead. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Okay, now I really am.
But
So
then-
he
The next
smothers
scene-
this dude with a pillow and then gets up and is like, I got the last laugh on you. Oh, no, actual heart attack. Down I go.
Yeah, because...
Staggers across the room into the coffin. This is that bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this broke my heart because, again, love Ferdy Mayne in this role. He's, delivers everything so well. But the director in this scene, this piece of shit, just holds the camera for this poor actor to hobble across the room, like reach up and shakingly get the cane across.
Yeah.
And you're like, just cut.
Just, we get it.
Cut.
He's in the coffin. Don't make me watch this poor man crawl into a box. Like, imagine trying to watch, like, your grandpa do a push-up. It's like that. It's just like,
Yeah.
this takes too long and it's very undignified.
It's like watching bad theatre.
Yeah.
It's like I can't look away because there's just one stage in front of me and I just got to sit through it.
Yeah, I can either watch it or close my eyes. Yeah, so we cut to a radio announcement that's playing over footage of a funeral that says that Conrad is dead, but that he doesn't want to be cremated because he intends to come back from the dead. So everyone knew it was going to happen.
This
and
is
they
the most
pretended to be surprised.
in detail news report on a celebrity death.
Also, just because you're not cremated doesn't mean you're not messed around with. Like, he wouldn't have his organs or anything. Like, he'd be embalmed and stuff. Anyway, that is way too much logic for this film.
I guess maybe he has been embalmed is the thing because what happens later doesn't negate that.
I think we just
Yeah,
have
it doesn't have to obey the rules of...
Everything for the rest of the film has to just be magic reasons.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So the Film Society kids are all at the funeral.
Weird.
Yep, don't know why.
They met him for...
Front row too.
Yeah, that's the weird... If they were right up the back, I could get it. But... And this is like a huge, lavish funeral.
Yeah, for a celebrity who
He's in a
presumably had lots of
mausoleum.
friends.
And the funeral seems pretty, or as crowded as they could afford to make it. But like they talk about how he is in this enormous mausoleum, like this Kubla Khan of the dead. But other times they still talk about him as if he's this washed up has-been.
Yeah.
It's so... I hate this.
Yeah, at the funeral, there's like a creepy video that...
Yeah, he filmed his own eulogy in advance, which is a pretty baller move. But it gets weird after that.
Yeah, so... As we said, there's no way to describe this mausoleum. It looks like someone looked at like the Egyptian pyramids and went, how can I make it fit in with like the desolate parts of the LA desert landscape?
But also the go-go 80s.
Yes, because it's a mausoleum that's meant to look like sort of like plaster and ceramic, but it has a neon star at the top that's like a flashing, blinking strip club light.
Yeah.
Little bits of neon in it, but mainly it looks like a really crappy set.
Yeah, this is where I say there's like a lot of weird sci-fi stuff going on inside this tomb. There's like neon lights everywhere and just a general like background noise of like beeps and boops going on. Like there's a computer processing somewhere.
The Film Society kids decide to go and visit Conrad's mausoleum like after dark in the nighttime. A, that's a weird thing to do. B, there's so many of them. Like there's a shot where they're all lined up against the fence and I'm like, what is there, like 8? I can't keep up with all these people.
Yeah.
I don't care to.
Well, considering the movie spent its first 20 minutes introducing us to Conrad instead of the actual main characters of the movie.
Yeah. I can't keep up with all these horny horror teens. Here's a fun little bit of... See, I really like what Jeffrey Combs is doing in this movie. I think he's playing the dopey fun friend, and this is just a fun little bit of what he contributes to the group dynamic.
He lives. He stalks. He sucks. Listen. Listen to the wolves. They are the children of the night. Their voices are like music to my ears.
You know, he's doing accents, doing all sorts of stuff.
I like the way that Jeffrey Combs does this, but also I like how acrobatic he is in this whole sequence where they're breaking into the mausoleum.
Yeah.
Like he vaults over a wall and does a lot of stuff that even when I was 22 or however old he is here, like he's limber Jeffrey.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, you weren't a limber boy?
Not limber like this. He monkey climbs up the wall like Jackie Chan.
Yeah, see, I'm made of balsa wood and charcoal these days, but in my younger days, I was a climber. You get a few drinks in me and I want to be on the roof of anything.
I got to climb this tree.
Oh, yeah, all constantly.
I was a bit of a tree climber in my drunken days.
Yeah.
I climbed a lot, but I don't think he vaults.
Oh, he scales it. It's
good.
impressive. Yeah, and I will say Jeffrey Combs, of all the stupid teens in this movie, is the only one that I believe as a nerdy, obsessive horror fan.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just like jock teenagers.
I'll mention right now, when you said the old horror films at the old building, that's the Horror Film Society. That whole building that they live in is the Horror Film Society.
Yeah, so
It's got like a whole dorm to itself. It's not even just the Film Society. Like, there's another one next door for romantic comedies.
It's better Stabber Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah, the building that they live in, all of these teens, all 6 or 7 of them, they all live in this big house that's called the Horror Film Society. It's got a big, plaque on the door.
They have their own car.
So it's a dormitory, or it's just like a club, and this is like a share house?
A dormitory's co-ed? Is that a thing?
Not normally either.
I don't know. I was literally thinking, have I missed some bit in the funeral where in the eulogy he says he's given them a house?
Oh, and
Yeah.
I also realised there's one line where one of the characters says, Conrad, you filmed a lot of movies here.
Oh, well, that's just confusing.
So what is this house? They don't establish what the house is. Unless it's like an old house that used to be a film set.
Used to be a film set, and
Because-
now this horror society live there, and they also happen to be... Fuck this movie.
Yeah, because one of the things that the house has that I noticed is it has one of those those Scooby-Doo turning bookcases that like turn into the next room. Like most dorm houses don't have that.
I can believe that most dorm house would. I don't believe that the Horror Film Society has a giant mansion they live in.
It is a really big. It's absurdly big. Like I don't know. Maybe horror films were just a bigger part of the curriculum in the 80s. You know? Yeah. So as we said, they decide to break into the mausoleum. So insane. The boys all scale the wall and head in. As we said, Jeffrey does some great climbing work. It's great, although it's very obvious that the mausoleum is made out of, like, fucking cardboard.
Yeah.
Because when he conks on it, it goes tonk.
The walls wobble when people lean against them.
Yeah. Stu also breaks the skylight, which seems disrespectful. Like, they do a lot of things from here on.
You wouldn't want to do something disrespectful while you're in there stealing a corpse.
But that's what I mean, because they start out where they're like, we're just going to go and visit the mausoleum to pay respects. But from this moment when
you were invited to the funeral, you had your time to do that.
From the moment that they decide to break into the mausoleum, everything they do after that totally negates the fact that this guy is their apparent hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. They jump into the tomb, which is lit in all of these like neon colours, smoke, weird audio recordings, lightning effects.
Yeah.
There's like a welcome audio. Like as soon as they jump in, there's like a voice that says welcome.
Yeah. And then
like a shopping centre.
And then a video starts of Conrad saying, welcome guests. I assumed you would break in here.
Yep.
And throughout the multiple of these videos will play. How many hours of footage for every possible scenario did he have set up? Did he record?
Yeah.
And who pressed play on that video?
The video seems to somehow know when someone has entered the room because it plays automatically as soon as anyone comes into the tomb where Conrad's corpse is laid out. And they're like, the video says, the door will shut forever, but like, that threat is immediately distinguished when they manage to just like wedge the door open.
Yeah, the timing there is wrong. The door should shut and then him say that door is shut forever. Instead, he gives you a good 5-6 seconds to get across the room and wedge something in the door, which they do. But also, they already climbed in through the roof. Yeah, they don't need the door.
They can get out somehow.
There's no threat in that.
How did he know that people were going to break into his tomb?
Yeah, he seems so certain of it that people would break in, that he literally recorded a video for that eventuality.
There is no way he could.
Who directed these videos? Who edited them and was like, hey, Conrad, is this how you want to spend your last days? Just filming messages that'll probably never get played?
Importantly, there's a bit where they cut back from the video that's like, this door will close forever, and after they've like
wedged
the
a
door
pot
open,
plant in there
they
or something.
cut back to these 4 guys, and Stu is like hugging one of his mates. He's doing like one of those like
Scooby-Doo kind of Shaggy, almost like leapt into his arms.
Well, no, he's like hugging him from behind, like a big spoon. They're scared. They're scared boys. He's just like hugging him. I'll post a photo. Some people appreciate it, other people won't. Martin is looking at me absolutely disgustedly. So they happen upon the genius idea to steal his corpse. They just
sort of seem to come up with it.
Yeah, like I don't think that when Jeffrey Combs does eventually pass from the mortal coil, I don't think that anywhere in my thought process will I think I'm going to nick his corpse and fanny around with it.
But you're a woman in her... yeah, like, I was thinking about that as a criticism. I was like, it's dumb. Why would they even steal his corpse? And then I was like, on the other hand, dipshit teens who will do a lot of
dipshit
things. People in Australia, like Welsh teenagers on holiday, do keep stealing penguins. So essentially, this guy in his Dracula cape is fundamentally a big penguin.
Yeah, it's black and white and red all over. Like the movie needs it to happen is the reason they do it. It doesn't track at all with anything leading up to that. There are other movies about people stealing corpses where I'm like, oh, I get this.
Yeah, and
this motivation tracks and makes sense.
The lead guy, Saint, seems to, shortly after this, may be motivated by the fact that stolen a corpse, seems to go full Charles Manson for at least one scene, which is really weird.
They just chuck him in the seat of the car and they take him back to their weird giant mansion house. The idea of stealing a dead body is so funny to them. Like, they are laughing so much about this.
Yeah, the way you steal, like, construction cones when you're that age or street signs or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, it's hilarious. I mean, I guess they're meant to be drunk, but Stu says this, which is, I think, what the entire audience is thinking.
Well, here we are. The question is, why are we doing this?
Great question, Stu.
Yep. all very fair. He's the only logical one of the group.
That's what we call hanging a lantern on it.
And again, the reason why I was thinking, like, I don't understand why they're stealing this corpse, even though I was thinking, I guess dipshit teams, they're going to do dumb things for pranks or whatever. But one of the things I was thinking, like, during that car ride, I don't know how long the car ride is, but, like, does anyone's head go, there's a corpse in the car?
Gross.
Can we get the corpse out of the car?
It's gotta smell terrible.
Can we put it back? Like, maybe they've embalmed it or whatever, but it's still
But
feral, man.
that still smells just as bad. It's just a different kind of bad, like embalming fluid, and that all stinks. That's
Yeah, someone says Errol Flynn did it to John Barrymore, which I had to look that up because I didn't know about that story. Like, that's apparently true. I mean, there's a little bit, because Drew Barrymore, John Barrymore's granddaughter, someone asked her in an interview, it was like, did that really happen? And she's like, yeah, as far as I know. I heard stories.
Yeah, it's an old Hollywood legend. I don't know how true it is or how much, there's... But yes, it apparently did happen. Yeah.
That's fucked. I mean, one of the only fucked things Errol Flynn ever did. Anyway.
Errol Flynn. Australian icon Errol Flynn, we love him.
Yeah, don't Google him ever, but yeah.
Top bloke.
Normal, great human being. Anyway, they do some, like, Weekend at Bernie's shit with him. They put him at the dinner table and, like, make him look like he's eating spaghetti.
And
Fucking
again,
idiots.
because it's a corpse, to me, there's nothing whimsical or Weekend at Bernie's about this. Because Weekend at Bernie's has a thing of the guys don't really want to do this, but they're forced into a position where they have to.
Yeah.
These people are doing it for fun, and so it isn't Weekend at Bernie's, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, they're just propping the... and they do a very good job of propping the corpse up, I'll say. It almost looks like an alive man just sitting there. I think an actual corpse would be much harder, because at some points he's standing up, at some points he's in a seated position.
Yeah, they dance around with him and they're able to hold up the full amount of his weight. Yeah, they're fine.
And the goofiness of this scene is, I would say, the best bit of the movie. Because this is the most, like, goofy, dumb, out there. Look at these teenagers playing with this poor old dead man.
I would be
like
into this scene if it came a lot sooner. If this was, like, 5 or 10 minutes into the movie, I'd be like, great, this is the sin these teens have committed that they will spend the rest of the movie paying for. But it's, what are we, like 20, 25 minutes in by the time this is happening? Like, the first act is over and the story is only just now starting.
The thing I like about the dancing scene especially is that Stu is dancing with the guy that he was hugging in the tomb. I reckon that's his boyfriend.
Aww. Actors always have to have a secret. They don't tell other actors.
The scene quickly degrades. I mean, as far as it can, where one of the Film Society girls who, reveals herself to be quite romantically obsessive about Conrad.
The one with the blue hair.
Yeah. She kisses his corpse. Bitch, that's nasty.
Well, she makes a whole speech before that, I think, about, like, I was obsessed with you, and she says she, like, stole a ring off someone.
She says that when she was a kid, she was obsessed with his movies. She stole a ring and pretended they got married, and that she imagined that they made love in a coffin. And everyone at the table goes quiet after that because it's like, oh, we didn't like him that way.
Well, it'd be one
like
thing to, like, say that...
You wouldn't do this with Jeffrey.
Yeah, this is becoming increasingly difficult to believe. I don't think this is a movie. I think this is a roadmap. But, like, I could see you, like, sitting around with friends getting drunk and someone's like, oh, when I was, like, young and sort of discovering my sexuality, I did something silly and embarrassed. I thought about a weird movie star or whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, having a good laugh of, like, oh, that's weird that was, like, one of your early sexual fantasies or whatever.
Yeah.
But that is so much weirder when the corpse of that man is in the room with you.
And then you fuck around with it when you kiss it.
Yeah, and she, like, dances with it. And
it definitely makes me think about the crux at the heart of the film Clerks, which I remembered the other day, which made me very sad.
And also the great joke from Weekend at Bernie's where he goes in the room with the lady and she walks out and she's like, "It's never been better."
Oh. Why? So they decide to bung him in the attic until the next day when they're like, we'll return him tomorrow. I would have thought that a celebrity tomb would have security guards.
Especially the night of the funeral.
Yeah, or at least, I mean, I don't know if, like...
Well, a cemetery would probably have some kind of night watchman.
You got to chase off the goths from fucking on the grave.
Yeah.
So Etta, Conrad's widow, she enlists the help of a medium. This scene is so fucking weird.
Again, this is more padding that I think was added later.
This was more padding because someone said something like, oh, the plot doesn't make sense, but this stuff makes it so much more confusing.
Yeah, he could just come back from the dead.
Yeah.
I don't need any explanation for that.
My favourite thing is that the medium says, get me his pyramid.
Yeah. I did love that.
The way she uses... The way that she connects with him in the spirit world is to get this crystal pyramid. It is not at all explained what this is.
I think that was a popular, like, new agey spiritually thing around the time. These like pyramid structures,
crystal pyramids. That was a big thing.
I feel like I've seen them somewhere else before, possibly just in other movies where they had the same prop. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I think there was something in that like 80s, 90s spiritualism stuff.
And
it has not stood the test of time then.
She says something to Edda about, why wonder what he would say when you can ask him yourself. And she concentrates real hard on the pyramid. And then in the room they focus on Carlos...
Conrad.
They focus on him and they're like the power and the eyes and laser sound effects. And then his coffin explodes. He's back to life, baby.
Sort of.
So the Wikipedia plot description of this film is so confused that all it can say is the coffin explodes, bringing Conrad back to life.
It's not how that works.
Yeah,
That's the opposite, if anything.
and you're absolutely right. All you need is enough ill will to build up to bring him back, because that's how old like Tales from the Crypt episodes.
Yeah,
work.
people just come back because they were disrespected. It's fine.
Yeah, it can be a gambler who was owed a debt, and that's enough. He'll come back from the dead and cut your head off. Like, that's all you need.
Yeah.
You don't need the pyramid. You don't need the
A psychic and weird lasery sound effects. And
I mean, the main thing I noticed was that the medium seemed to be having a sexual experience while she was summoning him.
it takes a lot of energy.
She seemed to be really coming all over the place, to be honest. I mean, watch the movie and see if you agree with me.
Also, through the rest of the movie, the coffin has no damage to it.
No,
don't watch the rest of the movie. Lisa, please play them the orgasm sound effects.
No, you're just going to have to scroll through and see where it is. But there's a lot of other things.
Too damn late.
There's a lot of other things I'd like you to see in this movie, so you might as well watch the whole thing. But
Don't. You're better than that, whoever you are.
They'll put together a supercut of Jeffrey for YouTube or something. This
yeah,
is
that's
so
true.
punishing.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive someone has done that already.
Yeah.
So Conrad rises from his attic bed, and the team hear this like almighty, ungodly scream. So the fuckheads decide to investigate. Jeff has no shirt on in this scene. It's fine. I'm fine. Why are they all shirtless, though? Because they're just all hanging out downstairs.
Maybe it's hot.
I did wonder that.
It's not hot, because when they go outside after the funeral, when they're in the mausoleum, they're all in winter clothes.
Maybe they're just horny teens.
Maybe they're horny teens. Maybe they're fresh from an orgy.
They do that, these damn teenies. They steal a corpse, they have an orgy, but they leave the corpse out.
Yeah.
It's just half-assing it, quite frankly.
That's proper decorum. Conrad starts stalking slowly around the house. He doesn't seem that menacing because he is just kind of shuffling around.
Does he deliver a line from this point on?
Yeah, I think he occasionally says something. Oh, no, sometimes it cuts to him in the coffin speaking, but it's very vague once he is resurrected, whether he is a zombie or a ghost or how corporeal. Sometimes it's just him inside the coffin making like, that clenchy psychic face that James McAvoy makes, and shit just like starts flying around the room or bursts into flames. And other times he walks around and murders people like Jason or Michael Myers would.
Our first victims are, of course, the horniest of the teens because they're about to have sex. This is the one and only scene where we get titties because it ain't a trauma film without them. The woman in this scene, I don't know what her name is. I don't think she's given a name. But she sees Conrad in the door and she gets her boyfriend, Oscar, to check. He doesn't find anything, but he does come back after he doesn't find anything and says this. What a fuckhead.
Yeah, but I did that whole sequence. I will say that scene appears in all 80s horror films, or a lot of them, and I do enjoy the trope of, come on, babe, it's nothing. The one from The Simpsons with, what's the Australian thing they do?
Yeah. Come on, love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Love. Yeah, he's like, you're imagining things, but I'll go check the house anyway. Oh, thank you, benevolent fuckboy. So Oscar gets locked in the attic, and he gets warped into one of those Scooby-Doo bookcases I mentioned. Conrad kills Oscar. This is our first teen kill by pulling his tongue out of his head.
Yeah, see, the kills here get at least in theory good. The execution of them isn't awesome.
Real bad, like him pulling the tongue out, because it's really dark. I don't know if they were scared it was
You can't quite tell what...
censored or something. You can't really see what's going on. There's a shot later where you see the post-mortem corpse or whatever, and it doesn't look too bad.
Yeah.
But you don't need that. It needs to be a scene where the whole audience goes, ew, rather than, what the fuck's going on?
Is that red?
What is that? Is he, like, stroking his chin or, like...
Yeah, but he pulls his tongue out of his head, which I wouldn't have thought would kill you, but it does. And he chucks him...
It wouldn't help.
You just have to do it harder than he does in the movie.
Yeah.
You have to, like, rip the esophagus out.
Oh, that's true, yeah. That'd probably fuck you up.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah, and Conrad chucks him in the dumbwaiter when he's done, because this house also has a fucking dumbwaiter.
Hey, dumbwaiters have a strong and proud history in horror movies, and I will always enjoy a horror movie with a dumbwaiter. This one doesn't take advantage of it quite as well.
No, not really.
As a horror device, like Ready or Not or Halloween H2O, Pet Cemetery.
So when his girlfriend goes to investigate where he is, Conrad sets her on fire with his mind.
That's such a weird... One guy he does this like incredibly visceral, physical thing to, and the other one's just like mind powers, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And the film doesn't give a shit.
No.
It's just like, whatever, now he has mind powers. And they light someone on fire for real, but again, because the director has no idea how to shoot it, it's just
a big orange blur amongst blackness.
Yeah, I guess there could be a person somewhere in there. Who fucking knows?
I think it's clearly the kills in this movie were modeled entirely around the props and stunts they had access to.
Yeah, Conrad uses his mind tricks again to lure one of the other guys, I think his name is Bobo or something, lure him back to the tomb, sort of a psychic connection of some
Beacon
sort.
kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, beckoning him to the tomb, the mausoleum tomb, and locks him in and fills the tomb with some sort of dangerous fumes.
See, why didn't that trap go off the first time they broke in? He's like, you've broken into my tomb. Now you will be trapped in here forever with poisonous gas. You're like, they already broke into your tomb and stole your corpse once. Where was the poison gas then?
Yeah, why was the poison gas only when there was only one guy?
And also, how big a, we don't give a shit is poison, these fumes will do good work.
Yeah.
What fumes? What are you doing?
What
will they do to him?
The least interesting death in a visual medium is watching someone be poisoned. Unless they're vomiting gallons of blood and their eyes pop out of their head. But just watching someone slowly get a tummy ache and lie down is
it's very
so disappointing.
It's very like 60s Batman. It's
a classic Riddler death trap.
Yeah, it just seems like something where you can just point a fog machine at someone and go, okay, slowly lie down. Our next death is the chick who was kissing the corpse. I think her name is Evie. She hears a voice coming from the attic, and she's attacked by Conrad's coffin. It just boofs right into her.
Yeah.
Just like a truck.
I think he keeps getting back in the coffin between these kills.
Not clear.
I think he's riding that thing around like Baby Yoda in his little egg thing.
The idea that he makes the coffin float and slams it into someone's head and kills them. You think about that idea and you think even in your average trauma film how that would be a lot of fun.
You'd at least
disintegrating head.
You'd put a wig on top of a watermelon. Yeah. You shoot it from behind. It's one of those great VHS moments that you want to go back and slow-mo watch.
Yeah, there needs to be a sudden shock.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
That went everywhere. Awesome.
With her head rears back and there's a little bit of blood in the corner of her mouth, I think, and that's it. It's just...
so weak.
Yeah, the three remaining students I think we've got left is Meg, Saint, and Stu, Jeffrey Combs. Mm-hmm. They're worrying about what to do, and Saint sends Stu up into the attic to go get Conrad's body. They're like, all right, we're fucking done with this. Go get his body. So at this point, they don't know that all of their friends are dead. They just think they've all disappeared.
It is, like, I would be annoyed if there was a whole discussion about, like, ghosts aren't real or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the absence of it, it is very confusing.
Yes.
Like,
So Stu, he starts hearing the creepy voices that Evie and the other guy did as well. And he's sort of resisting it. He actually watches as Conrad, like, walks up the stairs towards him. And he's like, and he's also, like, resisting the psychic mind powers. And then Conrad is like, oh, my mind powers aren't going to work with Stu. I'll chop his head off with a sword that happens to be here.
Yeah, he just pulls a sword out of nowhere.
Yep.
And chops his head off.
Yeah, and the head is really funny because the head literally rolls down the stairs and, like, out the door.
Out the front door. And then a random
That's pretty
crow
funny,
flies
yeah.
out and starts pecking at the head.
Well, the crow actually appeared early in one of the first scenes. So the crow was sitting on Conrad's corpse when they had it propped up at the dinner table. So it must be the crow.
Is it like a pet?
Yeah, it must be the crow that just lives at the house. But, I mean, the fun shot is when the raven is pecking at the head and eating it. It's very obviously really Jeffrey Combs' head.
Yes.
So he would have had to just
He's
sit
like
there.
buried up to his neck with a live crow pecking at the back of his head while he cannot react at all because he's dead.
Yeah.
We could stop for a moment to say this would have been a fun time in Jeffrey's life. Like, he would
Yeah.
have been a young actor on his first horror movie. All these other kids, like, they're all Joneses.
Real good time had by all. I
Yeah, it
think.
was his
guys.
Kevin Bacon in Friday the 13th.
Guys, I'm so sorry to disappoint you.
Summer of Fun. Oh, he did not.
He didn't enjoy it?
No, and he does not think very much of this film. When he
Good.
talks about
Well,
it,
I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
That's a given.
when he talks about this, he does have a lot of different words for it, including dreadful. But
I don't think Jeffrey Combs is an idiot. I
He-
don't think.
Yeah. I don't begrudge him taking this role as a young actor. Slasher movies were big at the time. You practically had to do one.
yeah,
But I respect him more for acknowledging this is not a good one.
I don't really like really criticizing films. I don't really, because I find it boring when you're, like, complaining. Like, I think I've sworn more talking about this than I do about things normally. But I've realized so much of the hatred is there were times often watching this where I was thinking, I'm putting more effort into watching this and trying to understand it than you did into making this.
Yeah. A lot of times I feel like I'm doing the writer's job for them, filling in the blanks and,
Yeah.
and trying to justify these weird decisions.
At
And
least into the directing and writing. Like, someone still was working hard at a prop. Someone with the actors.
the actors are all doing their
plugging
best.
away,
Yeah.
And it's just Norman Thaddeus Vane, you suck. From beyond the grave, you suck.
Nobody cared about this thing at the higher level.
Jeffrey Combs has said that one of the main reasons he got the role in this is that the prosthetic, like the dummy head that they had for after his head chops off, that was just, it already had brown hair. So they were like, we need a brown-haired actor. So they just,
Man, imagine. Oh, God.
you know, it would have opened a lot of doors for him.
Yeah,
So-
look, it probably helped him get where he wound up.
Yeah, and as he so often does, he's given 110%. He's doing a great job with it. I would argue, I mean, obviously the point of the podcast is that he's my favourite actor, but he's one of the best things in this movie.
He is,
You know,
yeah.
unequivocally, you can say
Yeah, I
that.
think even if I didn't know him, he stands out from the cast just a little bit more than the others who are a bit more generic.
Yeah, they
I
get...
think him, the guy who plays Saint,
Yeah.
is pretty good, and the main guy, they're the villain. Those three are great. I think, have we seriously skipped over the detective?
Oh, sweet Jesus. I forgot there's this whole other element of padding.
Yeah.
We were complaining before about the B plot where the psychic shows up and that's how he gets brought back to life. We come back to that stuff again.
Yeah.
Kind of where they're like, and there's a detective investigating this case. The film doesn't need a detective to investigate.
No.
We got the house, we got the killer, we got the teens, everything.
That's it.
Leave it alone.
It's like they shot that movie and then went, guys, it only comes in at 45 minutes and all of the actors are gone. We need to shoot another 30 minutes of literally anybody else.
See, your uncle can act, right?
Yeah, he can read.
Your uncle has a sort of police look about him.
He's got a suit. That'll do.
Is he free on Friday between 9 and 3?
Probably. He's unemployed.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I was going to skip over the cop stuff because it's so inconsequential
Yeah,
and
yeah.
pointless.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is
We'll mention that it's there and forget about it.
there's a detective C plot, which is absolutely fucking pointless. But the cops eventually do get onto the students. But again, we're left with Meg and Saint, who, you know, I didn't particularly like Saint in this, the actor playing Saint. But
Do you continue to watch the movie after Jeffrey's dead? Because I got up to that scene and was like, can I just check out now? I'm done here.
No, I'm a professional, Ferris. I watched the whole film.
Nobody's ever said that about this movie.
I mean, I don't care as much about
I don't think
Jeffrey's
the
God.
editor watched the whole film.
Yeah, you know the actor who played Saint, Luca Bercovici? He wrote Ghoulies.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, the original Ghoulies is also a goddamn mess of a script as well.
Is it? I like Ghoulies.
No, the sequels are quite fun. The first one was clearly originally not about the Ghoulies, and then they realized, oh, everyone loves the puppets, go back and shoot more of their bullshit and plug it in there. They're actually about this, like, wizard and all this other dumb shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like an occult movie.
Yeah.
And they had the picture of the ghoulie coming
out of the toilet, and they're like, that's what the people want to see.
They want-
Go and shoot more. Also, it doesn't cost us any. We don't have to get any actors back to shoot more with the puppets, so just fill that up.
Yeah. Give me toilet monsters. Yeah, so the cops are onto the students. Conrad somehow gave Edda their phone number, so it's all coming back. The roosters, the birds. What's the phrase?
The chickens are coming home to roost.
Thank you, Martin.
Look, it took me a while.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what you were on about there.
Oh God, Meg will not stop crying. The
actor will not. Oh God, I'm still in this movie.
She's the only person who felt remorse that they had stolen a corpse.
Yeah, because she calls the widow at some point before shit really kicks off,
Yeah,
and
she
is
doesn't really
like
do anything. but yeah.
about to say where they can get the body back, and then like someone else walks in and she hangs up or whatever.
Yeah.
Narc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for like 2 scenes, she's just sort of crying hysterically, and it's kind of like annoying. It's like, settle down, mate, get on with it. But which she does, because Conrad goes to attack her, and Meg like stabs her with this like pointy staff thing.
Yeah, stabs him with a big cross.
Big stick thing. So Saint decides to make good by returning Conrad's freshly pierced corpse to the tomb. And the old toxic gas is unleashed, but Saint manages to escape.
Oh, that's so shit, because the video plays again, and I quite like these videos, because it's 30, like, they got...
Hamming it
Yeah,
up.
just hamming it up, doing sardonic, switching from sarcastic.
He's often just holding a martini during them.
Yeah,
Like,
he's the villain from an FMV adventure game.
it's
in
like
the
he's
90s.
hosting Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous. Like it's him in a suit, kind of just swanning around his mansion with a drink.
Yeah,
And
a lot of different
Or one of those
locations.
murder
Yeah.
mystery detective games.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
In one of those videos, actually, I realised he's just leaning up a luxury car, lying on the bonnet, like, hey, ladies.
I do, yeah, so those are fun. However, the fact that in this scene, so he's recorded a third video, and rather than having his, if you break into the tomb a third time, I've got an extra special
well,
guest.
I'm really going to be mad. Now you're pushing it.
So for the third one, it's just... But I guess it's the fumes again. The fumes
Yeah.
is really
Yeah.
the only thing we installed in the set.
I wanted to have spikes and the walls close in. Piranhas were, it was just all very expensive. It turns out funerals cost a lot. And frankly, we spent a lot of money shooting these videos.
I had a
so
lot of idea. I got talked down on a lot of them.
I was probably creative controller for my tomb.
Conrad eventually does accost Saint, though, in whatever you call the part of a funeral home where they mess around with where they prep they don't mess around with them.
They mess around.
Where they prep the bodies, they take their organs. So what do you call
The
that bit?
morgue.
The morgue. I thought that was in a hospital.
You might be right. Is that also a morgue where you'd like prep a
Call it
body?
the prep room.
Sure. Yeah, the
I
green
think there's a
room.
specific-
The
yeah.
parlor.
There probably is a specific word for it, but I can't think of it now. Leave it in the comments.
The study. Conrad eventually does overpower Saint, and he traps him in a stone coffin, which I didn't think they still made.
Wait, I feel like the scene where Conrad gets stabbed is totally played like the climax of the movie.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Yes.
And then he's just alive again in a different location and
Again.
attacking a different person.
Again, I think you're right. I think they were like, this movie's too short. We
Yeah.
can add more in. Yeah. So he puts him into a crematorium fire, and my favourite thing is I did look up some of the IMDb notes for this, and some of the notes on this are a bit confusing because there's one note about this scene that says the cremation scene at the end was real. What does that mean?
Real? I mean, I guess that means it was a real crematorium.
We filmed a real cremation.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
they really
Isn't he
burn a person.
But is it a single take of the guy pushing?
No, because it's a really long scene of him like banging from inside the coffin, being like, no. And again, there's just no gas in this scene. Like, there's no suspense to it somehow. Even as you watch the coffin like sliding into the cremator, there's just nothing to it. I don't know how he managed to make that scene completely devoid of suspense or tension.
Also, is that how they cremate people?
Yeah.
In like a stone coffin?
No, you wouldn't normally cremate someone in a stone coffin.
No,
You would
because
Cremate people, it's like a cardboard thing.
Yeah, because you
Very
want the
sturdy
thing they're
cardboard
in
thing.
to burn
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas I don't think someone would burn very well in a stone thing because it would protect them
I
from
think
the fire.
you would probably still die, but no, I don't think you would
You'd
be like
come out,
reduced
like-
to ashes.
No.
You know when you have those big pizza ovens?
Yeah.
Like, you'd have a very crisp base.
Yes, well, it would depend on what stone you were put in and how heat conductive it is.
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
you would die either way, but yeah.
At least of smoke inhalation.
Mm.
It's less dramatic. But anyway, whoever...
Fumes sure are cheap.
All you need is a fog machine to make a movie, baby.
There's a scene in this movie where you can see the fog machine hose as well.
Yeah, someone said that on IMDb as well, and I was like, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
And
I'm like,
some people-
all of the smoke is like very concentrated on this one area, and then you realize you can see the mouth of the hose just spitting it out. Like, it's not fog.
Someone's just like letting loose a fire extinguisher. Yeah. So we go back to the tomb, and Etta and the medium are chatting over Conrad's body because everyone's dead now. So
And everyone wants more of these two.
Wait, is this
firecrackers.
before... Oh, no, we forgot the bit before Saint gets put in the crematorium. They have this extended Benny Hill chase through the cemetery, which really upset me because they've obviously filmed it in a real cemetery.
Yeah.
And just told this actor, go nuts, we just need a bunch of footage of you running. And he's like running and jumping over real graves.
Very
and
flouncy.
It just feels so nuts. And it's, again, no suspense in this scene. It plays like Benny Hill.
They usually, when you think about it, they usually do film in real graveyards, like generally.
It's hard to make them look real.
In my experience, I have shot a few things in graveyards. Usually, yes, you do shoot in a real graveyard for the like enormous background that it creates, but you find like a cleared area where there's just flat grass and you decorate that with prop graves.
Okay.
So the ones that you're actually are amongst and interacting with are all fake, and it's just the like when you need like miles and miles of graves in the background.
it's hard to make it look real. Remember that Halloween? I've got a big backyard. I was trying to make my backyard look like a cemetery. It's hard.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need a
because
lot of
you
graves.
live in it's a backyard, Lisa.
Hey, I tried, all right? So, yes, we are back at the tomb, and
The psychic and his wife are having a conversation. These two firecrackers could liven up any party.
the wife fucks off because the psychic is like, I just want to say goodbye to Conrad.
Which is a weird thing to say to a widow.
Yeah, it is.
You
Like,
should let her be the last one there if she wants. Don't be like, hey, I know your husband just died, but can you fuck off for a minute and give me and him some alone time?
Yeah, well,
We always had a very special relationship.
As it turns out, they did.
yeah, because the medium starts stealing Conrad's rings and personal effects and a big wad of cash. I don't know.
Why? He was buried with a wad of cash.
And like a proper roll. Like it was
Oh,
like a,
it's like a pimp level stack of cash.
yeah, it's probably like the width of like a Pringles can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
And you
she's
can is it real? Is it like the set budget?
Yeah.
yeah. Be careful with this. It's all we got. Yeah, she starts
This
saying
is newspaper. I know, it's all we've got.
she was saying some vague things about how he promised her things. So I guess
It
assumed
suggests
that
that they were having an affair, and he was always telling her, like, I'm going to leave my wife for you, and you'll be the one who gets to live in the mansion and have all the jewelry and yada, yada, yada.
And then Conrad again wakes up yet again from death and just shoves the wad of cash right into her mouth, and she chokes.
Which,
It's,
look,
again, a real piss weak death to end on.
a piss weak death to end on. It is the only, like, it's the most ham-fisted version of it, but at least it's an appropriate, ironic death.
Because she wanted the money.
A greedy person choked to death on money.
Yeah.
Like, it's the worst version of this, and other movies do a better job of it, but it seems like somebody actually thought about that one.
Yeah, but
also
we've only met this character once before. We have no idea about... this character hasn't had enough development for that to
the
be a
fact that
properly
she's
ironic
like...
death.
It turns out to be she's just the psychic through the whole movie, and then in like 30 seconds before she dies it's revealed, actually I'm a money grubbing mistress, like that's who I really am. And then she's killed.
If you were going to kill someone with a wad of cash, you need to like pin them down on the ground, shove it in there and hold it there for like 3 minutes. And I don't want this to be like grim and gritty HBO drama for 40 minutes, but it does not read at all in that shot that this is fatal.
You know what? If I was going to kill someone with a wad of cash,
go on,
buy a gun.
Well, it doesn't go like you know in the movie Jawbreaker where it like goes in her throat.
Yeah. No, it's in her mouth.
It's just in her mouth.
Yeah.
You can still breathe out of your nose, lady. But I read on IMDb, and again, I don't know how true this is, but apparently the actress wanted to get a tetanus shot because they were using real money.
Oh, that is so upsetting.
There's blood on some of those notes.
Yeah, who knows where that's been? But she wanted, she was like, I don't want to put that in my
There's
mouth.
definitely cocaine on there. That's,
at least.
Yeah.
Smells like success. I think there's a scene here somewhere which was incredibly dull of like the movie just confirming that Meg got out alive. The cops are like, hey, are you okay? And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So Meg is our only survivor.
Or as she's leaving the house, like she's being led out by the police, she turns and in horror sees one of the cops at the scene just pick up Jeffrey Combs's head and chuck it in a garbage bag.
Yeah.
And she looks at this with such horror, like that's meant to be almost the note the movie goes out on, is like the trauma this girl went through, which is a real fucking stretch to pull at this last minute. But what mainly got with me is it's appropriate that she's horrified because that cop's not wearing gloves. He doesn't even seem to be like evidence bagging it. It's just a garbage bag, and he's like, "Wow, that's gross. Get that, get rid of it. We got to clean this place up."
What if kids saw that?
Yeah, clean this place up. We got to look for evidence anyway. Well, it doesn't go out on that note because it goes out on an apparent video from hell.
Another video that he's shot. Yeah,
a video from hell from Conrad. There's like flames on it, and they're definitely real flames, Martin.
And he says, "Oh, it's not so bad out in hell." He has a funny little crypt
Quip.
keeper.
Yeah, he makes a joke about how like the food's good, but the champagne's all Californian.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
that's
fine.
But then finishes finally with, "Let this be a lesson to you. Don't desecrate corpses." Like the whole film's been a PSA just for this.
We've had a lot of fun here today. But there's nothing fun about grave robbing.
Think once. Think twice. Think, don't do necromancy on a celebrity's corpse.
And then the film ends and you're free.
Oh, God.
Out.
So that last video, I don't think that actually was. I think that was just another pre-taped thing he'd shot. Like, it seems to imply that he shot hours of these things for every eventuality and also somehow built a machine that would know what tape to play when. That makes no sense to me.
All right, this video will be in case if a dog accidentally gets into the tomb.
And it's just him going, "Get out of it."
Put it...
Leave it.
Put it down.
And this is in case someone breaks into the tomb. This is in case a second person breaks into the tomb. This one is in case the first person breaks into the tomb a second time. This one's just for women. This one's
a bit softer, a bit more romantic.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need to drop in the person's name to give them a real scare, so we'll be doing some names. Jeffrey. Andrew. Samantha.
The Denver...
Karen.
You can cut that together. You're a good boy.
The Denver Broncos. And here's who I think will win the Super Bowl.
Oh, come on.
I have watched this film before, and it seemed like any number of these 80s slasher things.
The Prowler, New Year's Evil.
Yeah, which I love. Don't get me wrong. As an overall genre, I really enjoy that. If you want to find an actual hidden gem, I would recommend Blood Rage, or a little more well-known is Sleepaway Camp.
But Ferris, Jeffrey Combs isn't in those movies.
No, he's not. And also, Sleepaway Camp's a tricky one because I always feel the need to put a caveat on it, but it is also a huge spoiler, so approach with caution. I don't know what to say about Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, I'm trying. Did Jeffrey do many slashes apart from this?
Not a huge amount.
No, not what you would call like classic slasher films with like a bunch of teens being picked off one by one.
Yeah, I mean, I was just...
He aged out of the horny horror teen demographic pretty quick. Yeah, look, Frightmare is not... It's not one of my top recommended horror films.
No, don't care for it at all.
Probably not even in my top...
I was
30?
really disappointed because, as I said, I had watched it before and it seemed fine. But sitting down to watch it for this, where I was actually like paying attention and taking notes, the moment you pull at a single thread on this thing, it falls to pieces.
There's a lot of movies that you can just sit and they just sort of wash over you a little bit. We've watched a lot of those together, the sillies. You know, they don't necessarily...
That's not the name of a horror movie, by the way, as much as I wish it was.
It's the name for the dumb one you watch before the serious ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get all your dumb comments out, and then you can watch a real one.
It's the movie you riff over while you're watching pizza until you settle down and watch a scary one that upsets you. But this one isn't even that fun, unfortunately. Like,
Nah.
There's a lot you can comment on it, but it's mainly like, that doesn't make sense, that looks garbage.
There's no big crazy swings at any point. Like the most fun bad horror movies to watch are the ones that were really ambitious and had like wild ideas behind them, and this is just kind of a fairly generic blancmange of horror cliches.
We watched one recently, Death Spa, I think.
Death Spa is great.
Yeah, which is one that's quite knowing and camp. Like, this is camp, but it's bad and unenthusiastic camp.
Yes,
it's
Death Spa one has a solid but ridiculous concept, as many of those slashes were. It was just a location. In this case, a health spa. If you're a fan of ladies in high-cut spandex one-pieces, highly recommend.
Yeah.
But all the deaths are built around health spa stuff. A sauna, a tanning bed, whatever.
Is that the one that also is called something like it has other titles that are puns?
There's two that I always get. One, I think Killer Workout and Death Spa.
Killer Workout's the gym one, which I think is a bit sillier.
Yeah, also great.
There's definitely one that has a pun title that I like, and I can't remember what
Aerobicide.
Aerobicide.
I think Death Spa might also be known as Aerobicide, or it could be Killer Workout. I'm not sure.
It doesn't matter. They're all good.
Check them both out, though. They're great.
There's nothing wrong with that type of film, but they have to be... They have to go balls to the wall. They have to be a lot. They have to be excessive and interesting and funny. I mean, I like funny in a movie. It doesn't have to be, but it helps.
There has to have been effort at some point.
Yeah, you have to believe that at least one person involved in making it believe this was a great movie.
Yeah.
And in this, you really get the actors are doing their best, but you get the feeling everyone behind the camera was just kind of going to work.
Yeah, that has definitely been the difference. Doing this podcast and looking at different low budget films and bigger budget ones, but you can definitely tell the main difference is movies where there's love in it. There's someone had a great idea.
Somebody really wanted to make it good.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
even if it's horror, like The Room is like the best example of Tommy Wiseau believed he was making a masterpiece, and that's what makes that movie so funny. If he had been phoning it in, it wouldn't be anywhere near what it is.
It's very hard to make a bad film on purpose.
But you can make a lazy film very quickly.
I mean, we talk a lot about low-budget movies, and the budget isn't even sometimes the problem. Like, a low budget is definitely a hindrance. But look at the difference between something like this and something like Evil Dead, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
Like,
and this movie never looks cheap, I wouldn't
no,
say.
not really. Not compared to other films of its type.
Some of the sets are a bit wobbly, but no more than plenty of other things around. In a good movie, I could forgive all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks cheap but lazy.
It's just this thing that I was thinking when I was watching this movie, and that was really irritating me, was I spent a lot of time around like these horror film communities, and I hear so much love for the 80s because it was when there was a glut of horror films, when it was this huge industry where you could make tons of these slashes, and they're like, oh, it was the golden age, it was when all the great ones were made. It's like, no, it's just when a lot of them were made.
And statistically, sure, there's quite a few good ones in there. Probably more good or at least memorable horror movies coming out each year than we get these days.
This was there was a question going around on Twitter that I thought I would ask you guys. What was the first horror film you saw that scared you, Martin?
The first horror film that scared me? Well, any of them, because when I was a little kid. So the horror film that got me into horror was Temple of Doom. which isn't a horror film, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It wasn't a horror film, but it was the...
It has horror elements, though, yeah.
Where the dude gets his heart ripped out of his chest and then held up by the guy and it burst into flames. It's like such a horrific scene where you watch this man die.
Yeah.
Like, in the
that scene is horror,
possible.
is flat-out horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing that, in spite of the fact it's disgusting and fucked up and something that an 8-year-old, you're showing to freak them out. In spite of that fact, I was like, oh, that was exciting. Let's do that again.
Like, ooh.
That acceleration, because at the end of it, I wasn't hurt and it's just special effects.
Yeah.
Let's show me that again. I want to feel like that again.
What about you, Ferris?
I would actually be hard-pressed to think of exactly which one it is. An early one that does come to mind is the 80s remake of The Blob, which is still one of my favourite movies of that era.
It's so good. You don't think it's going to be good, but it's really good.
It's so much, and it's so bizarre that it was not a hit. It kind of buried that, you had like The Thing and The Fly and then The Blob as like, we're going to remake these classic 50s B movies. Yeah, it wasn't a hit, but it's just so much fun to watch back now. Really amazing effects, incredible kill. It goes for broke on everything. Cannot recommend it enough. Shawnee Smith, Kevin Dillon scared the hell out of me when I was 8 or whenever I first saw it.
I think the first movie I saw way too young was The Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing that when I was probably...
Did you believe it was real?
Yeah, I think I would have believed it was real because I was so terrified of it, and I didn't know the concept of found footage films. So most people didn't at the time. Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. Like, I remember watching, I would have been 13 or 14 maybe when that movie came out, and even going to see it and there still being like it could be fake, but I'm not sure. And it was...
I want to believe it's real.
It seemed plausible that it could be real because you don't really actually see anything.
Yeah, I think I would have been 10 or 11 when I watched it, because I remember the house I was in and I had to... And I remember I was young enough that I slept in my mum's bed because I was so scared.
Oh, wow. Everyone growing up had that one friend whose parents didn't give a shit what videos they rented.
That was my parents.
Okay, there you go. Well, my parents, my dad's boss would throw these big parties every now and then, and all the kids would be downstairs just watching videos. But so many of those videos were, that's where I saw it. That's where I saw The Blob. That's where I saw... One of the earliest ones I remember is the Robert Zemeckis directed Tales from the Crypt episode, and All Through the House.
Hell yeah.
And we watched it at a Christmas party, no less. Awesome. So I'm pretty sure that ruined my 7th or 8th Christmas completely.
I love those Tales from the Crypt.
Watch it back now. It's one of my favorite episodes. It is a blast, but Jesus Christ, that scared the hell out of me as a kid, that ending.
I have a lot of very strong memories about Bordello of Blood, that episode. Very sexy.
I think we watched that too, which is not just like horror, it's also extremely sexual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot when you're a child. Anyway, Martin Dunlop, anything to plug?
No, nothing. Probably have a comedy festival show next year. Other than that, follow me on Twitter. Hey, at Martin Dunlop 1.
At Martin Dunlop 1. Very funny man on Twitter. Ferris, anything to plug?
I'm not on Twitter.
No, but that's okay.
That does recommend you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We do a podcast together, though.
Oh, yeah? That's true. You can check us out on Punwatch. You can get into the back catalogue of Failure to Launch.
Yeah. Ferris and I both do some podcasts as part of the
I assume you've explained both those podcasts to your audience before.
I haven't, no.
Punwatch, it's a pun-based news headline quiz game.
Yeah.
Failure to Launch, we watch failed TV pilots and pick them apart much like this, but if I'm being honest, funnier. Those
podcasts are also very fun. Unfortunately, if you're only looking for Jeffrey Combs vehicles, we don't talk much about Jeffrey Combs on Punwatch.
Never done a failed pilot either.
I don't think so. I've never...
No, I would know about it if he had.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all over it. Failure to Launch, Punwatch, both very good podcasts.
Yeah.
All right, you guys get out of here. I'm tired.
Aww.